So today I'm going to talk about a very core piece of wealth building. And this is something that I find a lot of investors tend to forget as they progress on their journey, and they tend to overcomplicate certain things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to every single investor needs a system to get them through to their financial goals. And the system itself is the asset, not some ETF or property or whatever, but the process itself is the asset. And as you probably know by now, and if you don't, make sure you watch our previous videos, the system we build with our members is called the Capital Amplifier, and this is what it looks like. So let's dive into what's at the core of this system. So here is the very core piece, is that every single investment has two sides. You need to understand these two sides, and then I'm going to introduce you to a secret third side. So here are the two sides to every single investment. And again, this is simple, but people tend to overcomplicate it. There's really two sides to an investment. There's the money side, okay? I need the money to buy the asset, and the asset you're going to buy. So the capital side, again, everything to do with money. It could be a mortgage, it could be your money, it could be whatever it is. On the asset side is the asset you're buying. So let's take an example. Let's just say you're going to buy a stock. Well, you need the money to buy the stock. Let's say you're going to buy a rental property. The rental property is the asset. The capital obviously is your down payment and the mortgage. So everything to do with money is on the left side there. Now, why is this interesting? Because here's the problem with most investors. They ask the wrong question. They say, what asset should I buy? Well, guess what? What is the limiting factor for most investors? It's actually the capital side, not the asset side. There are tons of assets out there, but they only have so much capital. So by asking, what asset should I buy? They're automatically focused on the asset side. But what you should really be asking yourself is, how do I increase my capital side? What set of transactions or what assets can I buy to make sure that it increases my capital side? The focus should be on the capital side, not the asset side. That's why we say for every investor, you really need to be thinking about what phase of the journey are you in. So what we do with our members is this. The first phase of the journey is what we call grow capital. That's the capital side. Grow capital before you invest it. Once you have enough capital, then you shift over to the invest side. That's when you start thinking about what assets should I invest my money in. Because when you are focused on growing capital, it's a completely different set of strategies to grow your capital from whatever you have to, let's just say, $2-3 million or more. Then you can focus on the asset side. Then you say, okay, I have this lump sum now. Where should I invest it? That's the second phase of your journey. So you need to know what phase of the journey you're in. But really, these are your only two sides of the investment. Okay, and don't overcomplicate it. So here's what we tell people. At the core of your system, again, our members, we help them build the Capital Amplifier system. At the core of the system you're going to build to move you to get you to your financial goals are these two sides. Okay, so always ask yourself, whenever you're doing an investment, am I focused on the asset side or am I focused on the capital side? So every single transaction you do really can help you on one or even both sides of the transaction. So you have to ask yourself, which side of the equation am I improving? And in the beginning, make sure it's more capital than asset. Now, this is where things get very interesting. It turns out there's actually a hidden third side, which I'm going to give you right now. And this is where very few investors understand that, and really our members, what we call wealth builders, really need to understand this third hidden side. So here's the truth. The average investor sees assets. That's all they're focused on, like we talked about. The wealth builder sees the whole equation. And it turns out there's a third part of that equation. And here's what it is. The hidden side of the wealth building. It's the engine inside the engine. It's the part most people never learn to control. And let's look at it right now. So it turns out, if you look at this diagram now, you can see the capital side we talked about earlier and the asset side. But it turns out there's a third side, and that's the foundation. That's where in the bottom of the triangle, the foundation of your journey should be what's called the capital structure. So what does that mean? So let's just say under capital, you have, let's just say you're buying a rental property. That's the asset. The capital is whatever money you can get. Let's just say some debt, some equity. So in the real estate, let's just say your rental property is $300,000. Well, you need $300,000 here, right? Now, some people would say, well, I can do creative finance and get the money from the seller. Guess what? That's still capital, okay? So the question then is, you have to find the capital, the 300,000. The capital structure is where it becomes very, very interesting. The capital structure is how much of that is debt and how much equity. That ratio is critical, because if you don't get this right, you can actually be moving too fast, where it's too risky because you have too much debt, or too slow, where you have, let's just say, no debt or very little debt, the right type of leverage and debt to be moving fast enough. That combination is critical to your success. Now, let's just say that you are really good with 2 sides out of the 3 sides. You've mastered 2 sides. It turns out that's not enough. Let's take an example. Let's just say you're really good with knowing what asset to buy. You're very clear on the asset. Let's just say it's rental properties, for example. And you're really good with the capital structure. You know exactly how to structure the debt and equity, but you can't find money, right? You don't have the money. Well, guess what? You're not going anywhere fast, okay? You're going to be where you are and moving very slowly. So let's just say now you're really good with, let's just say, capital. You have access to capital and you know exactly what asset to buy, but you suck at capital structures. And if you don't structure it correctly, for example, too much debt or too little debt, you're not going anywhere, okay? And in fact, if you have it incorrectly, you can really lose your shirt, like many people did in 2008. So capital structure is critical as well. So let's just say you're really good with, say, capital. You have enough capital, debt and equity, and you know how to structure it correctly, but you're putting it into the wrong asset. Again, you might even, you're not going anywhere fast, okay? You are going to be moving slow or even losing your shirt. So you really have to, as a wealth builder, master all 3 sides. Have access to the capital, make sure you're accessing the right assets in the right sequence, and structuring the capital, meaning debt and equity, that ratio, correctly. These are the 3 sides that every wealth builder needs to understand. Now let's go back to the Capital Amplifier. The system that you're building to get you to your goals, this is at the core of it. This is what you need to master. All 3 sides you need to understand and master. Unfortunately, for many people, they have no clue that capital structure even exists. And some people might say, and I've heard this a million times, I don't need to understand capital structures because I just need the money and the asset. Guess what? That's a fast pace to losing everything if you're not clear on the capital structure. It is the foundation to all investments. That's why it's the bottom of the triangle. It is the foundation of all your investments. So let's continue here. So master these 3 sides, and wealth stops being a dream and it becomes a design. It is phenomenal. So here at the end is your Capital Amplifier, or whatever system you're building. Make sure you understand these 3 sides, because at the core of everything you do are those 3 sides. Hopefully this is helpful. And with that, go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so, and give us a thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next video.